Hi guys, it is April from Getting Hogo With It. Today I am here to share with you my Quarantineathon TBR. Let's get into it. So if you don't know, I'm hosting a readathon called Quarantineathon, and it's happening from May 3rd until the 30th. For the month of May, I'm encouraging everybody to stay home or social distance to help with the COVID-19 situation that we're all in. So I have 4 prompts for this. I am going to link in the description box below my Quarantineathon readathon announcement video. I'll link that where I describe in great detail all of the different prompts. I'm also going to link in the description box a video I did where I recommended books to you guys for Quarantineathon. But now we're going to dive into the books that I am hoping to read for Quarantineathon. Let's dive in. So the first prompt is to read a book about hard times. We've been through really rough times in the past and we can get through them again. I've chosen 2 books to pick from. I like to have options with my TBR so that I don't feel like stuck, if that makes any sense. And one book I'm reading right now, I'm in the middle of. Actually, I'm at the beginning of it. It's The Splendid and the Vile by Erik Larson. This is a nonfiction book about Winston Churchill during World War II and the London Blitz. I've always been really fascinated by the Blitz, and my favorite World War II historical fiction books most of the time have a scene or two that focus on the Blitz, and I just find it fascinating. And it is about how he became victorious in the end and how he encouraged the British people to get through during a very terrifying time, I imagine. So yeah, that's The Splendid and the Vile. I'd be very surprised if I didn't read that for the first week. But I also have another book here that I've been wanting to read for a very long time. I think this was suggested to me by Krista from Books and Jams, and it's We Were the Lucky Ones. This is also World War II historical fiction. This is written by Georgia Hunter, whose family did survive World War II. They were Jewish people, and they kind of dispersed throughout the world to survive. And I think this is a fictionalized account of what her family went through, and it sounds amazing. I've only heard good things about this. So those are my 2 options for the first week. I'm very, very excited about both of those books. For the second week, we're supposed to read a book about people who are vulnerable to this whole COVID-19 thing. So I suggested in other videos that people like the elderly, people who are ill, people who are poor. And one thing that has popped up, and you'll see again and again in this group, is prisoners. And also correctional officers as well would be super vulnerable. So I've got 3 books about that, and then I have 2 other books. So this week I have the most selection, I would say. The first book is another book that Krista from Books and Jams recommended. Wow, this is like a PSA for Krista's channel. Go and subscribe to her. I will link her channel below. She's wonderful. It's The Sun Does Shine. And this is a nonfiction book written by Anthony Ray Hinton. He spent something like 30 years of his life on death row and was completely innocent. It is very upsetting that this does happen. He's not the first person who was innocent to spend so much time in jail. And this is apparently a very hopeful book, and it's about forgiveness and resilience, and so it sounds wonderful, and I'd really love to read this. So that's an option for this prompt. Another option for the prompt is The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. Now this isn't a prison book, but this is a reformatory school. This one was suggested to me by Russell from Ink and Paper blog, and this is about a group of Black boys who are sent to a reformatory school in the 60s, and they are abused at the school. There is actually, this place did exist. I think it's called the Nickel Academy. It did exist, and there was a graveyard found filled with the bodies of young boys. I don't know how many graves there were, but it's very clear that there was a lot of abuse that went on at this school, if you can call it a school, because it's a reformatory school. And I think they stayed there overnight. And so they would be absolutely at risk of COVID-19. And it sounds like a very upsetting book. And then the book that kind of started it all with this whole prison list is An American Marriage. This was suggested to me by Lauren and the Books and also Jen Campbell. This follows a wife and her husband. Her husband is falsely accused and falsely sentenced to prison for rape. He did not rape the woman who says that he raped her. He in fact was helping her move some boxes or something, and then later that evening she was raped, and for some reason thought it was him. And it's about their marriage. Both of them know that he is completely innocent. I think it's in part, at least, an epistolary story. I always have trouble saying that word, where you read the letters going back and forth between this husband and wife, and it sounds very, very sad, but also really, really important. So that's An American Marriage. And then I've got two more that don't have anything to do with prison. If I decide that I want to read a book about an elderly person, I mean Ove all the way. This is a man called Ove, and this is about a very grumpy, set in his ways older man. I think neighbors move in and they soften him and open him up, and you're meant to fall in love with Ove as you read the story. So I could read this. And then the last one is actually a book that I recommended to you guys for this prompt, and it's Little Women. I only read half of Little Women because I had another copy of this that was just the first part of it, and I thought it was the entire thing. I was wrong. It's a bit longer. So I could read Little Women because Beth in Little Women, if you don't know, is ill and has, did she have smallpox? I can't remember offhand what she had, but it weakened her immune system. And so I could read Little Women and stay home for Beth. So those are all of the books that I could read for that prompt. In the third week, we're all meant to read a book about people on the front line. So this could be people like police officers, doctors and nurses, people in grocery stores. There's so many people on the front line keeping us safe, keeping us fed. And so I have several books here. First, I'll start with Smoke It's in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty. So Caitlin Doughty, I think, does she still work at a crematorium? I'm not sure. But she wrote this book about her experience working at a crematorium. And as you can imagine, funeral homes and funeral directors and crematoriums are under a lot of pressure right now. Very sadly, some people don't come through COVID-19. And these people have to step up, and how they do that in a humane way, in a safe way right now is so important. And so I thought, well, they are absolutely essential workers right now, and probably not getting a lot of praise because it's such a hard thing for us to recognize as people are dying from this, very, very sadly. So we'll see if I get to Smoke It's in Your Eyes. I've got two other books here. I could also read Long Bright River by Liz Moore. This is a police procedural kind of book, I think. It's a thriller, and it's about a police officer who is trying to solve this string of murders where someone is killing off drug addicts and I think homeless people as well. And she's trying to get to the bottom of it. And she has an extra push to really get to the bottom of it because her sister is a drug addict and she's missing. And so we follow this woman on that journey, trying to keep people safe and trying to stop this madman. So I could read Long Bright River. I've heard really good things about that. And then, of course, psychologists are out there trying to help people. And my favorite psychologist probably of all time, other than my own, is probably Frida Klein. So I am now on Friday on my mind. I'm really sad about this because that means I only have like 4 more books to go, and this would be part of that in the series. Anyway, if you don't know, it starts off with Blue Monday. It's a series of books, mystery books. She, in these books, is, you know, helping her patients, but she always gets involved somehow in a police case and kind of works with police to help them out. In this book, a bloated corpse turns up in the Thames. The throat is slashed, and the only clue is a hospital wristband reading Dr. F. Klein. And so, of course, she gets involved because that's her name. So that would be really good to read. And then in the last week, I'd really love us to all read a book about what we're missing. The world is different right now, and there are plenty of things that we could be missing. I mean, some of us are actually still in quarantine and are probably missing our family and friends, so you could read a book about that. And then, you know, things like concerts and going to the theater, like many things are different and will be different for a while. So I have 3 books here that kind of talk about, well, different-ish things. First up is Exit the Actress by Priya Parmar, and as you guessed it, this is about theater. This takes place in the 1600s, and we follow a woman named Nell who is discovered selling oranges, but she quickly becomes an actress and goes on the stage. And it's about her experience on stage, and then also becoming the mistress of Charles II. It sounds really good and really interesting, so that could be something that I could read. And then a book that Jen Campbell really loved and I immediately bought is Remarkable Creatures. This is a book about friendship. We follow a woman who walks along the beach and discovers all of these creatures. These fossils are kind of littered all over the beach, and she restores them and actually ends up discovering several species. In the end, she ends up selling them, or many of them at least, to rich white men, and they take the credit with having discovered a species, which is not true because she's discovered them. And this is apparently based on a true story. And so we follow her as well as her friend, and they work together, championing each other's work. And so I thought I could read this because I am missing my friends and supportive women. And then last but not least is Rules of Civility. I'm missing going out on the town, like with my husband, going to restaurants, and like, not that we like go to clubs or anything. So this follows a woman in 1937, and she meets a man named Tinker Gray, and he introduces her to the New York night scene and the club scene, and it's about their love story, I think, and who she meets along the way, and she becomes a bit of a socialite, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And it just sounds really great, and definitely something that I could read to get that itch of like going out for a night. Also, as a new mama, I think we've had one date night. She's like 8 months. And we've had one date night, but that's okay. I'll live vicariously through Katie. That's what I'll do. So those are all of the books that I am planning to choose from in the month of May. Let me know in the comments below what you are planning to read for the prompts. I'd love to know. Also, if you are a booktuber and you're planning on participating in Quarantineathon, first of all, I hope you do. Also, why don't you do a TBR of your own? I would really, really love to see that. And I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk with you soon. Bye. And she meets this man named Tinkerbell. Oh no, Tinker Gray. Tinkerbell.